Hello everyone, welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi dated 23rd July 2026, where we would try to comprehensively analyze 7 articles in 3 different sections along with your daily mains answer writing program. In the analysis part, we will first have a comprehensive discussion with respect to the internet shutdown done by the government during the ongoing protest against the education minister. In the second article, we will have a discussion with respect to the recently held Quad foreign ministers meeting in Manila along with the importance of Quad for India. Then in the mains value addition section, we will have a look at some of the points related to recent education reforms in India and what more can be done. Finally, in the prelims pointer section, we will have a discussion with respect to 4 different articles from the special perspective of your UPSC prelims exam. Coming to the very first topic of today's discussion, it is regarding internet shutdown. Now 20 years ago, shutting down internet would have just caused inconvenience, but today it can bring life to a standstill. Students, they attend classes online, businesses receive payment digitally, hospitals exchange medical records electronically, governments, they deliver welfare scheme through digital platforms, and citizens exercise their freedom of speech through social media. Now the internet has become as important as roads and electricity in a digital economy. Yet governments sometimes suspend internet services to prevent violence, misinformation, or threat to the public order. The challenge today is not whether government should have this power, but how to ensure that such power is exercised lawfully, proportionately, and only as a measure of last resort. In this perspective, we'll see today's discussion, which is regarding the CJP protest or the protest against the education minister, which is happening right now, where I think the word alleged should not be used now. It is confirmed that there was educational frauds or irregularities in exam, and mobile internet services were temporarily suspended in parts of central Delhi and specifically to the protest site near the Jantar Mantar. And why this topic is important for you guys, it is part of GS paper 2. It includes your rights to speak, or for example your fundamental rights, governance and social justice. Clear? So in this regard, first we'll see what is an internet shutdown. It refers to intentional being an important word here, intentional suspension or disruption of internet or telecommunication services by the government to maintain public order, national security and public safety. Basically, to maintain public order, government can shut down the internet. The argument basically of the government here gives is that yes, you have right to speech and expression in Article 19(1), but Article 19 clause 2 puts certain restrictions on your fundamental right to speech. And that is the point which government raises when they come up with this irregularity, or you can say this internet shutdown. What are the different types of internet shutdown? You have complete internet shutdown, entire everything is stopped. Then you have mobile internet suspension. You stop the mobile internet on a particular site. You allow broadband or Wi-Fi, but you stop the mobile internet. At some places it can be otherwise. You stop the broadband and you allow the mobile internet services. Then you have blocking specific platforms or apps. For example, during the NEET exam, again it was conducted, the Telegram app was banned for the last 4 or 5 days. That is specific app being banned. Then you have internet speed throttling. This means reducing the speed of internet. Either it can be done for a particular site or it can be done in a holistic manner. The entire internet, for example, the government gives you just 3G internet instead of 5G. This is your throttling. Now in the current scenario, in 2026, there was a report, Keep It On report. This report is published by Access Now. Access Now is a civil society organization, a global NGO which keeps a record of all the internet shutdowns which happen throughout the world, and it tracks all these and maintains a registry, or you can say maintains data of all the internet shutdowns happening throughout the world. It's a report which talks about rising repression meets global resistance. This report shows that internet shutdown in 2025. It highlights the growing use of internet shutdown worldwide. In 2025, India recorded 65 internet shutdowns, the highest number among any democracy. If you compare India with all the democracy, we call ourselves the mother of democracy, but still, in this same democracy, 65 times it was needed for our government to shut down the internet. If you see the past trends, right from 2018 to 2024, although the total number are declining, it was 84 in 2024. In 2025, it is 65. The number is declining, which is a good step, or you can say a good news for us. However, still it is highest among all the democracies. Now till here we were on the first rank among the internet shutdown. We attained second rank in 2024. Why? Because one of our neighbor, वो हमसे भी आगे निकल रहा है, the Myanmar. They shut internet 85 times in 2024, becoming the top country with internet shutdown. And I think in 2025 also Myanmar is the number one, and rest all another of our neighbor Pakistan is on number third. So you see, this is the major pattern around the South Asian countries, not everywhere. Let's say Nordic countries or the American countries, this thing is not happening. Clear? Then what are the legal frameworks of internet shutdown? How can government do this? They does this under the Telecommunication Act of 2023. The Section 20 empowers the government to temporarily suspend the telecommunication services during public emergency, public safety, or subject to prescribed safeguards whenever the government feel that they have to take this step in order to maintain public order. They can do this under this particular Telecommunication Act 2023. Then there are Telecommunication Temporary Suspension of Service Rules 2024. Now these rules say that they talk about certain things, that while suspending the internet service, you have to have written reason. It is mandatory to have written reasons why you have suspended this. Although the government can always find loopholes, they can give any kind of, you can say, false narratives or whatever reasons for suspension of internet. But although at least this much accountability is there, that they have to give some reason to suspend the internet. Then comes your limited duration, that the internet suspension cannot happen for throughout a long period of time. If it is required, it should be done for a limited period of time. Then your periodic review has to be done for, if it has to be prolonged for more than 1 to 3, let's say more days, you review it again and again. If the need arises, then only you extend it, otherwise you have to cancel it. And publication of orders, whenever it is being done, it has to be publicly told to the general public that this type of internet shutdown is happening right now. Clear? Then what are the constitutional provisions here? Your first Article 19, subclause 1, subclause A. It talks about freedom of speech and expression. This is being curtailed at the time of internet, shutting down of internet. Then you have Article 19, clause 1, subclause G. It says freedom to practice any profession or trade. Now some professions are directly linked to the internet services. How can somebody run their profession when internet services down at that particular place? For example, let's take a broad example. For example, if Airtel, let's say Sunil Mittal tomorrow stands up and say, why are you suspending internet service in Delhi? There are my users who are using my service in that place, and I charge certain amount of money from them. I put in a lot of money in the infrastructure to put up an internet facility around Delhi, and if you'll do frequent internet disruption, my revenue will hamper. Now this is a very broad example. This thing will not happen. This is just to explain you that how some businesses are linked to internet, they may also suffer. And some businesses, or you can say people, have the right to do any kind of business they want to do. Then you have Article 21, which is right to life, which includes access to digital services essential for livelihood and dignity. Now right to life, Article 21 also includes right to life with dignity. Now dignity word is important here. Why? Because without services you will have your right to life, but you will not have right to life with dignity. So to have dignity in your life, you need proper services, and for some people that service may hamper. Clear? So these are some of the legal and constitutional frameworks which govern internet suspension. Then why do government impose this? Why does government take these steps? What are the reasons? To maintain public order, prevent spread of rumor during protest. Now these are legitimate concerns of the government, but what they should realize is that these concerns emerge in other developed nations also. But they have found some other solutions instead of shutting down the internet. You have to make sure your public is literate, your public is aware, your public is having consciousness, not to spread fake news, not to spread rumors, or you should have strict laws against persons spreading rumors. If somebody spreads rumors, take action against him. Nobody will dare to do this again. All the same. So first is maintaining public order, second is national security. For example, your counter-terrorism operations in Jammu and Kashmir. In such scenarios, internet shutdown becomes necessary. Then prevent violence like communal riots, prevent fake news and misinformation, stopping viral misinformation during sensitive situations, let's say during a communal riot situation, and to protect public safety during large-scale law and order situations. Now largely the reasons are same. One is to maintain public order, and second is to prevent misinformation. And one other legitimate reason is to stop the insurgency, or let's say in case of any anti-terror operation. Clear? Then why are internet shutdowns criticized? Why? What is the problem? If the government is doing this for the benefit of the people, why are these being criticized? Because they are not done proportionately. For example, restriction of the fundamental rights under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Your freedom of speech and expression is restricted. Sometimes legitimate criticism of government is stopped by these activities. Then you have economic loss of the digital businesses, UPI payments and e-commerce. They all suffer in that particular area. For example, let's say there is a big billion day sale on a particular day, and on that day the internet shutdown happens in a large metropolitan city. The e-commerce side will suffer a huge loss. So these are the things. They affect education. Students, they lose access to online learning. A lot of learning. You right now, you are doing online education. If there is no internet, you want to be able to access to this class. So students' right to education hampers. Then it impacts healthcare, telemedicine, digital health services. They are disrupted. What if somebody is taking home medication? Somebody is having a setup of hospitalization in their home, and suddenly an emergency occurs and they have to consult the doctor. They cannot. So these are the rights which get violated during the such kind of internet shutdowns. Then governance challenge. Citizens cannot access online government services. Then you have disproportionate measures, like entire district may face shutdown because of localized incident. Instead of shutting down internet in one particular very small area, you shut down the internet of the entire district. These things do happen frequently. So the entire district suffers because of some localized incident. Clear? So that's why internet shutdowns are criticized. That's why most of the developed world, they do not resort to the internet shutdown practices. Clear? Now moving ahead, what is the Supreme Court stand? Although Supreme Court does not want to take any stand on the protest, yesterday, first the Chief Justice of India calls students, or you can say people, cockroaches. Now this is the exact movement started from CGI's remark, and yesterday when some lawyers went to him to show the police brutality and the videos to take action against Delhi police to stop them from beating students or children, again CGI said that I don't have time to watch these videos. Maybe they must be watching India's Got Latent videos to make sure that they do not speak anything offensive against them. So what is the Supreme Court stand on this internet shutdown? In the Anuradha Basin versus Union of India 2020 case, the Supreme Court held that internet access is closely linked to freedom of speech and freedom of trade, which we have seen. Supreme Court also reasserted this thing. Now the principles to govern internet shutdown, they must be legal and necessary. Only when it is required, it should be necessary, and it should be done according to the Telecommunication Act and rules of 2023 and 2024. Clear? It should be proportionate. Jitni jarut hai utna hi karo. It should not be that if internet shutdown in a local place can help the situation, you should not shut down the entire district. So it should be proportionate. It should be temporary. It should be least restrictive. That means that should be the last resort. Then what are the other observations of the Supreme Court? They said that indefinite internet shutdowns are unconstitutional. It has to be limited and bound to a certain time period. Orders must be published, and they should be subject to judicial review. That means court can take the cognizance of the fact that whether these internet shutdowns were proportionate or not. What are the challenges in internet shutdown? The government faces the challenge of balancing security and liberty. They need to control violence without excessive restrictions. Then there is transparency issue. Orders are sometimes not promptly published. They are published with a lag. Then federal concerns. Variations in practicing across different states. Now what happens? Let's say there is a particular state which is being ruled by the central government. Central government is the same parties ruling the state government also. There the rules apply differently, and in the states which are ruled by the opposition, their rules sometimes apply differently. The government, these are simple political issues which keeps on happening between the government. So this is also wrong. There should be a proper SOP that this is how these rules will apply, and they should be uniform throughout the country in all the states. Clear? Now what can be the way forward, how things can be improved? First is use shutdown only as the last resort. Only as the last resort. This is the most important thing. Prefer targeted restrictions over blanket shutdown. Rather than going for entire blanket shutdown, you can stop certain sites. You can target certain content and bring that off rather than shutting down the entire internet. Better intelligence and policing. Prevent violence through proactive surveillance and policing instead of internet bars. Now what happened in this protest? There was an intelligence failure on the part of intelligence agencies and police when they could not predict that such massive crowd close to 1 lakh people or students can gather at a protest site. They never anticipated this thing. Had they anticipated this chaos would not have happened. So on the first step, there was lapse on the security, or you can say intelligence basis, or failure of intelligence. Then you have platform-specific restrictions. Just like you blocked Telegram few days back during the NEET exam, you can block certain sites rather than cutting down the entire internet. Block specific unlawful content instead of disabling entire internet. And then greater transparency. Publish all shutdown orders with reasons. Then judicial oversight, ensure speedy review by courts in case of prolonged restrictions. And strengthen the digital literacy among the citizens. This is most important. Public awareness campaigns to combat misinformation so that it does not spread at the first place. Government को reason ही ना मिले internet shutdown करने का. Clear? And introduce parliamentary scrutiny. For example, there can be an independent oversight body in the parliament. This can be a multi-party body also, which can look around this internet shutdown. Clear? So these were some of the way forward which can help in this situation. Now your work is to make sure you write the answer, examine the legal framework governing the internet shutdown in India, do the existing safeguards adequately balance the public order with citizens' digital rights. So an ethics question can also be created in this sense. Make sure you write this answer. Coming to the next topic. The 21st century is increasingly being called the Asian century. But the real question is, which ocean will shape this century? The answer is the Indo-Pacific. Nearly 2/3 of the global trade and a significant share of energy supplies pass through the Indo-Pacific. Whosoever ensures peace and stability in this region will significantly influence the global economy. Now this is where the Quad assumes importance. It is not a military alliance like the NATO. It is nor economic alliance like the EU. Instead, it is a flexible partnership of 4 major democracies working together to maintain free and open and your rules-based Indo-Pacific. Now for India, Quad is not just a diplomatic forum. It is a strategic instrument to safeguard maritime security, strengthen the regional partnership, and balance an increasingly uncertain geopolitical environment. In this regard, we will have a look at this article which talks about the recent meeting which happened in Manila, Philippines, where the India, the US, Japan and Australian foreign ministers, they reaffirmed their commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Now different levels of ministerials meet keep on happening in the Quad level. Right now the foreign ministers meet happened. Now why this is important for us? This is part of GS paper 2 international relations, and Quad is an important institution in that perspective. Clear? Now what happened in this meeting? This basically the ministers expressed support for ASEAN centrality and unity, emphasizing that regional peace, stability and prosperity should remain ASEAN led. Now what do you mean by ASEAN centrality? It basically means that ASEAN should remain at the core of the regional security and economic architecture in the Indo-Pacific. What is ASEAN? Association of Southeast Asian Nations, a bloc comprising 10 Southeast Asian nations, for example, Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and all these countries. The rest are Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all these things, all Philippines, all these countries. Clear? So the Quad says that in our entire Indo-Pacific strategy, which includes your Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and all the ASEAN which lie in between, this strategy should be ASEAN-led. That means we have to take these countries in our confidence and along with us, because two blocks are competing here. One is China, based upon their Belt and Road Initiative, and the Quad is seen as an alternative to China. Clear? Now what is Quad? How it evolved? Let's look at some of the timelines. Now the idea emerged in 2004 during the tsunami in Indian Ocean, where these countries came together for the relief purpose. Then in 2007, Quad was established and first meeting was held. In 2000, Shinzo Abe of Japan, he was killed in a gunfire attack. He was the longest serving Prime Minister of Japan. He had good relations with India also. He gave the idea of Quad and the partnership began at that time. In 2008, it became inactive after Australia withdrew from the Quad. Then in 2017, it revived on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit. Again, it was revived. And see where it was revived? On the sidelines of ASEAN Summit. Clear? And then in 2021, first Leaders Summit held virtually during the COVID times. Then in 2024, Wilmington Declaration adopted at the Leaders Summit in the United States. Clear? Now it has been established now still, although it is not as formal an organization as most of the other organizations are. For example, we'll see what is Quad. Quad basically is it is a quadrilateral security dialogue, specifically security dialogue. It is an informal strategic partnership. Informal. This word is important for you guys. It is not formal. It is an informal strategic partnership of 4 democratic countries aimed to promote a free, open, inclusive, and rules-based Indo-Pacific Ocean. Clear? The major entire region of Indo-Pacific, which includes your Indian Ocean, South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Pacific, in all this region. It was proposed in 2007 by Shinzo Abe. There is no permanent secretariat of Quad. No permanent secretariat. Again, the point, it is informal. There is no headquarter, just like there is no permanent secretariat. The nature, it is not a military alliance and not a treaty-based organization. It is an informal, without a treaty organization. Clear? The objective is to promote free, open, and inclusive, stable, prosperous Indian Ocean based upon rule of law, freedom of navigation, respect for sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Now, why specifically this? Again and again, they are talking about rule of law, freedom of navigation, respect of sovereignty. Because what China is doing in South Asia, they are gaining control over the entire South China Sea. China says whatever they create artificial islands, and then they claim these islands are ours, and all the waters around those islands, the exclusive economic zone, China says that this belongs to us. Clear? So China is violating a lot of international rules in South China Sea, and nobody is able to speak against China because they have become a military and you can say the economic might of the world. So Quad is taking position against China in these issues. Clear? The areas of cooperation under Quad, your maritime security, cyber security and space cooperation, then your supply chain resilience, climate change and disaster relief, humanitarian assistance during disasters. Clear? Now, cyber security, space warfare, they are 4th and 5th domains of warfare. In these also, apart from your simple maritime security, the 4 governments or the 4 leaders work together on this also. Then they have a military exercise called Malabar Naval Exercise, where all the 4 militaries, India, Japan, US and Australian navies, they participate together for the military exercise. Some other countries are also joining as observers in these military exercises. Now, Australia rejoined the exercise in 2020, making it a 4-country exercise. Clear? In 2008, Australia withdrew from the Quad. Clear? So this was Quad. Now, what are the different areas of cooperation? We already seen maritime security, Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness. This program has been started. Then your cyber security, cooperation among cyber threats and ransomwares, together dealt by these countries. Then your critical and emerging technologies like AI, quantum computing, semiconductor ecosystem. They do partnership on these issues also. Health security like Quad vaccine partnership during COVID-19. Your climate action like clean hydrogen, renewable energy and resilient infrastructure. Then infrastructure development through transparent and sustainable infrastructure financing. Unlike the China's debt financing, what China does, as we have already discussed this in previous analyst also, that China gives huge amount of money to someone who is not capable to repay that amount back. Now they give, let's say, a country $100 billion to construct a highway, but they know that this country does not have the capacity to charge toll to their people and gather back that sum and repay back to China. So ultimately what happens? They'll have to lease that infrastructure then to China for next 100 years. So they give so unsustainable debt which the countries are not able to repay, and ultimately the China captures the assets. So in response to this, they are talking about transparent and sustainable infrastructure financing. Clear? These are the area of cooperation. Now, why is Quad important for India particularly? What do we gain from Quad? Ensure a free, open and rules-based Indo-Pacific. We are a major partner in the Indian Ocean. And Indo-Pacific is a large contiguous zone in some sense. So we are an important partner. The Americans have also said that India is an important partner in their Indo-Pacific vision. So we have to make sure that there is rules-based order in this Indo-Pacific region. So we have to stand up against them, just like the students are standing up against the government. Our government has to stand up against the dominance of China. It promotes freedom of navigation, respect for international laws, peaceful resolution of disputes in the Indo-Pacific. Clear? So this Quad, it supports UNCLOS-based maritime order in the South China Sea and Indian Ocean. Then you have strengthened maritime security, enhance India's maritime surveillance, naval interoperability, and protection of sea lanes of communication. Malabar exercise and your Indo-Pacific partnership for maritime domain awareness. These are programs in this regard. And maritime security is also strengthened because we have Mahasagar policy, mutual and holistic advancement for the security and safety of all in the region. So that Mahasagar policy also aligns with the vision of Quad. Then you have balancing China's growing assertiveness in the region. We already talked about this. Then you have supports India's Act East and Indo-Pacific vision. Again, our Act East vision talks about Act East, Sagar, Indo-Pacific initiative. They all talk about strengthening and partnership with Japan, Australia, and ASEAN countries and Indo-Pacific. That we'll cooperate more and more with the Southeast Asian countries and the East Asian countries. We'll have better trade with them. We'll have better cultural connections, people-to-people exchange with them. More, you can say, soft power exchange will be there between these countries. This all comes under the India's Act East policy. Then you have enhanced technology and supply chain resilience. Now the entire world is dependent upon China for a lot of raw material and a lot of manufactured goods. We have to strengthen our own supply chains so that we are not completely dependent upon China for majority of the raw materials, or let's say the finished products. Right now what is happening, all the, let's say, your small lights, decorative lights which we use on Diwali, they all come from China, or most of the toys come from China. In fact, the gods and goddesses images, or you can say sculptures, they are coming from China. Clear? So we have to strengthen the supply chain. Entire supply chain resilience has to be created. So reducing dependence on single country supply chain and promotes cooperation in emerging technologies. Then you are strengthening disaster management and humanitarian assistance, working together in case of any disaster in this entire region. Then address non-traditional and security challenges. For example, expand cooperation beyond defense into cybersecurity, climate change, health security, and critical infrastructure. In this regard, your vaccine program by the Quad countries, Quad vaccine partnership, cybersecurity initiative, clean energy cooperation, they all are the examples of how cooperation is happening in non-traditional sectors. And lastly, enhances India's global strategic role, or the India's role also in the global partnership. When you come on a table with large countries, it enhances your status also in the world. Position India as the leading Indo-Pacific power and reinforces its image as net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. Clear? So these are some of the benefits what Quad gives to India. So Quad reinforces India's security, prosperity, and leadership in the Indo-Pacific through cooperation, stability, and a shared vision for the peaceful and inclusive region. Clear? Moving ahead, what are the challenges before Quad? ऐसा नहीं everything is good hunky dory. There are certain challenges like no formal institutional structure. There is no secretariat. There is no headquarter. No permanent secretariat or any TT. Quad is not based upon a TT. Any player can walk out any day. Maybe tomorrow morning Trump wakes up and on his Truth social media platform he can say that I quit the Quad. Nobody can do anything. It is not a TT based organization. You are not bound to stay in it. Divergent national interest, different strategic priorities among the member countries. India has some else, Australia has some else, US has some else, Japan has some else. So it's difficult to bring all on a single platform to have a same vision. So these challenges do persist in between. China's opposition. China views Quad as an attempt at strategic containment, containing China into its borders. So basically China looks Quad as a threat. We have to maintain good relation with China also because a lot of trade dependence we have with China. Then ASEAN concerns. Need to ensure that ASEAN centrality in Indo-Pacific architecture. ASEAN is a major stakeholder in the entire Indo-Pacific because they lie in the center of Indo-Pacific vision. So we have to make sure that their concerns are also heard. Their sovereignty is not compromised. Then strategic autonomy of India. India seeks cooperation without entering into any military alliance. For example, what Jawaharlal Nehru did in non-alliance movement. Same we seek today also, in some other words. We don't want to get into a military alliance with other countries, but still we seek cooperation with them. So it becomes a challenge. Sometimes the country might say, okay, we are coming into a cooperation. So, but India does not want to come into any cooperation because we want to maintain our own strategic autonomy. Clear? So these are some of the challenges. Now, how these challenges can be overcome? What can be the way forward for Quad? First is institutionalized cooperation. Strengthen working groups and regular ministerial engagements should happen at different levels. Let's say this time it was foreign ministers meeting. There can be a defense ministers meeting in Quad. There can be a you can say home ministers meeting in Quad. There can be national security advisors meeting among Quad. Then there can be leaders summit which happen in Quad. You expand the economic cooperation apart from military. Don't restrict it to the military, because E is equal to E. Economy is equal to empire. The more strong you are in economy, the stronger will be your fortress of your country. Clear? So build resilient supply chains and critical mineral partnerships so that you are not dependent upon countries like China for critical minerals, rare earth elements. Then strengthen maritime domain awareness by enhancing information sharing and joint surveillance, which we are already doing. Collaborate in emerging technologies like AI, quantum computing, cyber security. Furthermore, because America and let's say Japan, they have the technology and we require these technologies. Support ASEAN centrality, ensure Quad complements existing regional institutions and does not hamper into their working. Clear? It is important that we complement them, not hamper them. And promote inclusive Indo-Pacific, focus on development, connectivity and capacity building alongside security. The focus should not just be on security, it should be on development also. Clear? So these are some of the way forward, how Quad can improve, how it can become more relevant to India. Now in this regard, make sure you write this answer. Examine the significance of Quad for India's Indo-Pacific strategy. Also discuss the challenges that may limit its effectiveness. Now coming to the mains value addition, in today's Indian Express, there was an article which talked about that beyond the protest, there should be 3 education initiatives which the government should take. Now before moving ahead with this article, we should look at some of the recent developments in the Indian education system, what government has taken. Now the steps in education, government has taken multiple different steps. There are huge number of reforms which keep on happening after every few years, but we have just taken last few years reforms what government has done. For example, your APAR ID, a unified lifelong digital identity of Indian students, aligning with one nation, one student ID vision. Clear? So everybody should have an APAR ID. It should be linked with the academic bank of credits via DigiLocker. So in your DigiLocker, you can see how many you can say degrees, marks, all these things you have. And over 33 crore APAR IDs have been successfully linked via DigiLocker. Then you have internationalization via foreign university campuses. Now India is also establishing some campuses outside India. IIT Madras, IIT Delhi, these are doing. And some foreign universities are also establishing campus inside India. For example, your Deccan University is establishing campus in Gujarat's Gift City. Clear? So 19 foreign universities are set to establish campus in India. Then you have Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Now this is the apex body which will look after the research and development within the country. Right now the research and development happening in our country is very low. We are not doing any increment, you can say path-breaking innovations are not happening in India. We only do incremental innovation. That is, some innovation has already been done, we just add a step to it. Clear? So this Anusandhan National Research Foundation, it will operationalize the 1 lakh crore Research Development and Innovation Fund. Then your Nipun Bharat Mission to universalize foundational literacy and numeracy by 26-27 academic cycle, supported by upgraded infrastructure in 12,000 PM Shri schools. What is Nipun Bharat? What is this foundational numeracy and literacy? Basically, it says that by the end of grade 3, a child, they must read whatever they read with meaning. It's not as if they should memorize ABCD and then just speak out. Whatever they are reading, they should understand the meaning of that. That means foundational literacy. And numeracy means that they should be able to do basic maths, plus, minus, multiply, divide by the class of 3rd, by the time they end the class 3rd. So this is Nipun Bharat Mission. Then you have National Digital University to expand the reach of university to the last mile, to the people who cannot access to the physical colleges. For them, National Digital University. Clear? These are some of the recent initiatives. If you will go through the other reforms in education, you had one major national education policy in 2020 which came up. You had a lot of reforms after that happening. Clear? Now what this article specifically talks about, it says that 3 initiatives should be taken care of. First is Indian knowledge system in education. It should be integrated with the existing education system. They say that promote a balance understanding of India's scientific and cultural heritage. What Indian scientists did 1500 or 2000 years ago. For example, recognize the contributions of Aryabhat, Brahmgupta and Madhav alongside global scientific traditions. It promotes decolonization of education. Now this is important. This term can be used in writing essays also. It can be used in ethics also. Decolonization of education means that we are not just following what the Britishers have taught us or what they have left behind. We should develop our own education system having a mix of our traditional cultural learnings and the modern global learnings. However, there is a thin line when you cross towards the cultural system. You can get entirely be sucked into that system and you forget about the new developments happening throughout the globe. You see all the things through the lens of culture. That is not right. In education, this should be done very carefully. Second thing they talks about is mother tongue and multilingual education. Language is not merely a medium of instruction, but a carrier of culture, identity, and cognitive development. So they say language is important. Strong foundation in Indian languages, English as a global link language. Basically, this says that Indian languages should not be ignored when you are learning in English. But again, English is a global link language, and in this globalized world, when you are doing work for a company and you're communicating with people sitting in, let's say, US and UK, English will be your primary language in that sense. So yes, we have to work for our Indian languages. We cannot forget them. We have to make sure that they are equally used. But again, you cannot ignore the role of English in this sense because it is a global communication language. Right now, you guys, somebody is listening from Tamil Nadu, somebody from Andhra, Kerala, and Maharashtra, and Northeast. Most of you don't know Hindi. So English is the only communication which connects all of us. I may not know your regional language. You may not know my regional language. So English is left then. So again, these suggestions are given, but again, these suggestions have to be dealt very carefully. And what also happens, we do not have enough study material in the regional languages. Sometimes government does say कि हम engineering and they'll say medical will teach in Hindi. Do you have enough material in Hindi? Do you have books on all the terms, all the translations in Hindi well developed? Your exams, which have translation of English questions into Hindi, they are having a lot of mistakes. What will you do with the books? So these are issues also. Then, but this mother tongue and multilingual education, it supports the NEP, National Education Policy 2020 vision, emphasizes on multilingual education. Then you have examination reforms. The exam should be reformed in a particular manner. For example, secure digital infrastructure. There should be strong data security and a breach should not be tolerated. This is also the demand of students also, that how data breach can happen inside an exam or how paper leaks can happen. Then you can have biometric authentication, computer-based testing. From next year, I think, in NEET, they'll be taking computer-based testing because in that, chances of leak reduces as compared to the pen and paper test. Greater state-level coordination. The exam center which are being selected for exam, they should be more reliable. Reducing coaching dependency is again one reform which they have suggested in this article. But again, the issue is, you make education so brilliant, you give education so nicely in the government schools and the private schools, then nobody will require coaching institutions. Coaching institutions like us, we are thriving because proper education is not being given in the schools and colleges. I am from one of the prestigious colleges of Delhi, but I know the level of education given in our college, it is not what is exactly required in the market to get a good job. So why don't, instead of saying that there should not be any coaching, you improve the quality of teaching in your schools and colleges. Nobody will come to coaching and then. Clear? So these were some of the things regarding education which were taught in today's article, which you can use in your mains answer writing. Coming to the first prelims pointer, it is regarding Agniveers. Chhattisgarh government has given 10% quota for Agniveers in the class third jobs for certain posts in police, in jail administration and forest services in the state. Now this is important. Why Agniveers scheme was brought in few years back. This and what is Agniveers? First understand this. They are the personnel who are recruited under the Agnipath scheme of the Indian Army, Navy and Air Force. Basically what they said, the scheme was launched in 2022 under Ministry of Defense. They said that we'll recruit a lot of young chaps from 17 to 21 and a half years old. They will be recruited in Army, Navy and Air Force for 4 years. After the completion of 4 years, some, let's say 25%, exactly they talked about 25% will be retained and 3/4, 75% of them will be released back. Now this was the Agnipath scheme. Eligibility was 17 and a half to 21 years. Retention of up to 25% from each batch may be enrolled into regular armed forces based upon the requirements and the merit. The remaining 75% are released after 4 years. Now it created a panic amongst the people who are preparing for army. Now if even after getting selected as Agniveer, after 4 years you are being removed from the services. Now what will you do after 4 years? So this is an issue among the students. What are the pay benefits? Basically they said that out of your salary, 70% you will get in hand salary and 30% will be contributed to a fund. Contribution to Seva Nidhi, which is called 30%. And similar contribution to the corpus will be done by Government of India. So let's say in the first year you have 30,000 salary, 21,000 you will get, 9,000 will go into the corpus and government will also give 9,000. Finally at the end of 4 years, you will get 11.7 lakh rupees as your corpus. Now the government, understand the rationale, why government did this Agnipath scheme. The average age of Indian Army was 32 years, which is older if you talk about the army personnel, because they have to be physically fit, they have to fight on ground in case of war. So the government wanted to reduce the average age of army. So that's why they were recruiting young chaps, and after 4 years they were leaving them. Again they were recruiting new every year. Clear? Every year they were recruiting, let's say for example 100 people. After 4 years they'll remove 75 of them, then again remove. Every year they'll keep on adding 100 and every year they'll keep on removing 75. Okay, so this manner. Also the budget spent on the salaries and pension of army personnel, it was huge, it is humongous. So government wanted to reduce that budget also, which is spent on the salaries and pensions of army personnel. These are the major arguments why government basically wanted a more fitter, more younger army personnel. So this scheme was bought. But again, it also raised a lot of questions from opposition also, which were legitimate. For example, how will you give a person training in such a short span of time? You will give them training also within 4 years. You will put them in services also. You will assess their merit also in that 4 years. How all this can be done in such a short period of time? Or it might happen that you give them training in a haste. You do not provide them adequate training within short span of training. You then put them in the army. What if they are not adequately trained for a warfare? Their lives may be in danger. What will happen once they come back into the society? Now these people, you understand, they will be militarized people. They will be having training in military. What if they goes into the wrong direction? They join some gang. They comes into the contact of organized criminals. They go through the route of radicalization. What if that happens? These are trained youth having military training and now unemployed. But one of the government argument was also that they are getting 11 lakh rupees at the age of, let's say, 24-25 years. At this age, if you are having 11 to 12 lakh corpus, you can build a business out of it. That was also a legitimate point. But there was a lot of oppositions, but the scheme went through. It kept on happening. Now, what happens? Seva Nidhi, I've already told you, lump sum amount which is paid on the exit, which is tax-free 9.71 lakh. The benefits were a skill certificate were given to these Agniveers and their experience certificate is given. Priority in several recruitment processes were announced by Central Armed Police Forces, several state police forces and other organizations like the Chhattisgarh government. A lot of organizations said that we will put some quota for the Agniveers which have left the army, because they are trained, they are skilled, they are disciplined youth. They can be used in those services. Life insurance covered during the service period. The life insurance was somewhere more than 1 crore. The total amount, if a person dies during the service, their family member will get more than 1 crore, these Agniveers. But they were not eligible for pension, ex-serviceman status solely by the virtue of completing the 4-year tenure, unless they are retained in the regular service under applicable rules. If they are not held under the army rule, if they are outside, there are those 25% which are retained. If they are among those 75% which have been removed, they will not get any pension throughout their life. They will get one-time lump sum amount of 11.7 lakh and then there is no contact with the army. Clear? So there were career opportunities which the government said for Agniveers, like permanent cadre opportunities for 25% of the Agniveers. Then financial stability, they will get around 10.4 plus interest, you can say 11.7 lakh amount. Reserve jobs in other defense forces like paramilitary forces, CAP, state police, all these. Paramilitary force reservations, civil aviation roles, they can be recruited multiple places. But one reality is also this. Already you have a lot of people who have done graduation, post-graduation, masters, still they're not able to get jobs. How will they get job? And a person who wanted to get job, let's say in an army, After he's been removed from the position of Agniveer, now let's say if you give him job in a public sector undertaking, what kind of jobs do you think these people will get? A security guard somewhere? Will they feel the same dignity what they would have had they been in army? No. So these are some of the issues with this Agnipath scheme. Now what can be the exam traps in this? Agniveers, they serve for 10 years. This is wrong. They serve for 4 years. Now these are some of the prelims traps, how the statements can be given to you in the prelims exam, and you might get confused and mark them wrong. So this is how exam statements are made. All Agniveers, they are permanently absorbed after the 4 years. No, all are not absorbed. Only 25% of them are absorbed into the army. The scheme is applicable only to the Indian Army. Again, this is wrong. Only is an extreme statement. Whenever you see only, chances are that it will be wrong. It is applicable to all the three wings, your Army, Navy and Air Force. Clear? Every Agniveer receives a pension after 4 years. Not every Agniveer, only those who are released, they get a lump sum, and those who are retained, they get pension at the end of their service. Not all will get. The scheme is administered by Ministry of Home Affairs. This is wrong. It is the Ministry of Defense. The upper age limit is permanent at 23 years. No, this is wrong. It is at 21 years. From 17 and a half to 21 years. Clear? So these are some of the exam traps. Coming to the next topic. From today, we are having the start of the 23rd Commonwealth Games. Clear? So a lot of Indian athletes will take part in this. This will be our 23rd Commonwealth Games. 23rd Commonwealth Games. Where are they happening? Glasgow, Scotland. Now originally these games were to held in Victoria, Australia. But what happened? What is happening with Commonwealth Games is that whosoever is hosting these games, they find these games unviable. The government say that we have to spend a lot of money in hosting these games, but we do not get enough revenue in return. So an event like Olympics bring a lot of audience. An event like your FIFA, FIFA World Cup brings a lot of audience. But Commonwealth Games does not bring a lot of audience. So it is an issue. They are not able to generate enough revenue. And the exciting part, next Commonwealth Games will be in India, in Ahmedabad. The 24th Commonwealth Games in 2030, they will be held in Ahmedabad. Which Commonwealth Games held in Delhi? In which year? Tell me in the comment section. Clear? So host selection. Originally, it was awarded to Victoria, Australia, which withdrew due to rising costs of hosting these games. Glasgow was later selected as the replacement host. Glasgow has also hosted these games in 2014. Clear? The theme is a scaled down, cost-effective edition focused on using existing venues. Now, what they are doing, from the 19 disciplines, they have reduced these games to 10 disciplines and across 4 venues. This is a limited Commonwealth. Now, all the sports are not there. Cricket, which was there in the last Commonwealth, has been excluded. Hockey has been excluded. Table tennis has been excluded. Your wrestling has been excluded. So a lot of sports have been excluded. 10 sports are there, including your athletics, para-athletics, swimming, etc. like this. And there are a lot of sports excluded, like hockey, cricket, badminton, wrestling. All of these were where the chances were we would get gold medal. In cricket, hockey, badminton, wrestling, everywhere we had chances. But that's fine. Nobody is conspiring against India. It is just the nature of these games that the country has to do a scale down game. Clear? Again, next year it will depend upon India which games we have to include. We can include kabaddi also. It depends upon us. Clear? So 13 disciplines will be there. 126 athletes are participating from India. And Neeraj Chopra will be the flag bearer of India. He will get a good competition from Pakistan's Arshad Nadeem. Clear? Then this is the first Commonwealth Games. Now you should be aware of this. They were held in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada in August of 1930. So the next Commonwealth Games in 2030, which will be happening in Ahmedabad, India, they will mark the 100th year of completion of Commonwealth Games. Clear? The participating nations, it features teams from 74 nations and territories. Now, why they have used the term territories here? See, in Commonwealth, you have 56 sovereign states in Commonwealth of Nations. But there are certain territories which independently play in these games. For example, Falkland Island, which we talked about in last Analyst. The Falkland Island, they are under the territorial control of UK. But in Commonwealth Games, they separately, because under the British Crown, they work as a sovereign, they are administered as sovereign independent nation. But they are under, not exactly nation, a sovereign territory. Territory is the right word. So they will be independently representing in your Commonwealth Games. The UK may represent as one country in Olympics, but the UK, your entire Wales, Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland, they will represent separately in this Commonwealth Games. So that's why you have 74 nations and territories. However, the Commonwealth together, it consists of 56 countries. And which are these countries? These countries together, these are the countries which were previously under the control of British Empire. So all the British colonies together they came, and they, to maintain relations, it is called a Commonwealth. Clear? So for example, if you can see the Commonwealth flags, evolution of flags from British colonial banner to modern Commonwealth nations. This was India's flag, British India's flag. At that time, this is India's present flag. Similarly, you had flag for every other country. Fine. So 2030 Commonwealth Games edition, I have already told you, it will be hosted by Ahmedabad. And Ahmedabad is also bidding for, I think, 2036 Olympics, if I'm not wrong. Just check it. So some of the exam types regarding Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games 2026 are being held in Victoria, Australia. Wrong. This was the old venue, which has now been changed to Glasgow, Scotland. The games feature 20 plus sports like previous edition. Now this is wrong. It is a scaled down version of Commonwealth, which includes 13 disciplines and almost 10 sports. The games are hosted by England. No, they are hosted by Scotland. Glasgow is hosting Commonwealth Games for the first time. Again, this is wrong. In 2014 also, they hosted the Commonwealth Games. India is hosting the 2026 Commonwealth Games. This is wrong. We will be hosting in future your 2030 Commonwealth Games. Clear? And which city? Ahmedabad. Now, Delhi is not hosting Commonwealth Games now. Delhi held the 19th Commonwealth Games in 2010. Now, one more thing which we have to see, during the Delhi Commonwealth Games, large-scale corruption was done. Massive large-scale corruption was done. If similar thing happens again in Ahmedabad, there will be of no use of having these games then in India, because the entire burden goes on the taxpayers. Their money is used in these projects, in these, you can say, games, and siphoned off. Clear? Although it is a good initiative, it is good for India if done in a good manner, because a lot of sporting infrastructure will be created in western part of India, where right now the culture is not as supportive, because you don't see a lot of sports person or athletes coming from Gujarat. But once they'll have facilities, maybe new talent emerge from Gujarat. Coming to the next topic, it is regarding recently National Stock Exchange AHIMSA Index. This index, it seeks to provide investors a way to invest in companies that do not engage in animal cruelty. The word AHIMSA, non-violence, non-cruelty. Clear? It is part of our economics. Now, what this AHIMSA index is, basically it is an index based upon the Nifty 500 companies. Nifty 500 are the top 500 companies based upon their market size. For example, Reliance is the number one company. Then I think you have HDFC is number 2. Similarly, right up to, there are more than 2,000 companies listed in NSE. So first 500 companies within this National Stock Exchange, which are not involved in any type of animal cruelty, which are, you can say, environmentally sustainable companies, which are good on ESG parameters, environment, social, and governance. Which companies are good in these 3 parameters, they will be included in this AHIMSA index. AHIMSA is aspiration, harmony, inclusion, management, sustainability, and accountability. Clear? Launched by National Stock Exchange. If they'll ask, it is launched by SEBI. This is wrong. If they ask, it is launched by BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange. Again, this is wrong. Now, one correction here. This is the image of Bombay Stock Exchange. It is often confused by most of the people. They think that this is National Stock Exchange. National Stock Exchange is different. This is Bombay Stock Exchange. Clear? This is developed in collaboration with SMBC Group. There is Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation of Japan. It is a multilateral, you can say, global financing corporation which provides financing for different initiatives. Clear? The purpose is to measure the environmental, social, and governance (ESG) performance of listed Indian companies, and then they are included in this index. Helps investors identify companies with strong sustainability and responsible business practices. For example, a company like ITC, Indian Tobacco Company, which manufactures cigarettes, it will not be included in this index. Clear? The company like Coal India will not be included in this index because they produce coal which harms the environment. The index is a ESG based thematic stock market index. Thematic, you are picking up companies based upon certain theme. Clear? Similarly, you have different thematic index. For example, you have IT index where all the IT companies are. You have banking index where all the banking companies are included in this. Clear? You have PSU index. All the government companies are included in this. Then NSE AHIMSA index companies are evaluated on environmental performance, social responsibility, corporate governance, transparency, and ethical business practices. What are the uses of this index? It promotes responsible investing, encourages companies to invest in ESG disclosure and performance. Now, what will happen? More and more companies will try to come into this index. They will improve their practices. Because when a company comes into these kind of indexes, they get a lot of passive investment into their company. There is an active investment which somebody does directly into the company through stock market, but there is passive investment also where people put money into the indexes, and whatever companies index have bought, in same proportion they buy shares of those companies. So company share prices goes up. So this will promote ESG practices among the companies. What is the significance? It aligns India's capital market, stock market, with global sustainability finance trends. These trends are growing in the world. The ESG trend is very much into the world. Although the same fund managers who invest these ESG funds, they come through private jets, they come through business class flights, and then they talk about environment. So again, this is a hypocrisy on their behalf. Now it supports long-term value creation by integrating ESG considerations into investment decisions. Clear? Now what can be the exam traps? AHIMSA is launched by SEBI. This is wrong, launched by NSE, National Stock Exchange. It is a government welfare index. No, it is not a welfare index. It is a stock market investing index. Clear? Only manufacturing companies are included. No, see again, only is an extreme word. Any kind of manufacturing services based, any kind of company can be part of it. AHIMSA is an index for green bonds. Again, this is wrong. It is based upon ESG parameters. AHIMSA is a religious non-violence index. Again, no, this is not a religious non-violence index. It is a stock market or capital market based index focused on ESG parameters. Clear? Moving ahead, coming to the last topic of today's discussion, it is regarding antibiotics and how they are classified, how their overuse leads to antimicrobial resistance among people. Clear? It is part of health and wellness within our syllabus. Now, what is antibiotics? First, we'll see and how they are classified. Now, antibiotics is whatever medicine we take with regards to any kind of, let's say, fever, any bacterial, viral, fungal, or any kind of infections. Now, WHO has categorized 3 types of different antibiotics. First is excess, where first choice antibiotics for common infections that have a lower risk of driving resistance. Now, excess means those antibiotics which are easily available, they do not affect body severely, and they have good effect on, or you can say they treat on the first line of defense. Clear? Let's say you have a running nose, you have some kind of fever, you take antibiotics. These are in the excess category. Then you have watch category. These are broad spectrum antibiotics that should be used only for specific infection because they carry a higher risk of promoting antimicrobial resistance. And then you have reserve, the third category, the highest category, the last resort antibiotics reserved for treating multi-drug resistant infection. Now, those infections which are resistant to all other kind of drugs, which cannot be treated by other drugs, they will be treated only by these specific drugs. Those come in the reserve category. Clear? So these are 3 categories of antibiotics. Now, what is antimicrobial resistance? How it happens? When microbes, they outsmart medicine, common infections become deadly. Now, the infections in our body, they understood the medicine. Now, they have developed resistance against the medicine. Now, even if you have fever and you are taking antibiotic, if the body has developed resistance against that medicine, the medicine will not work on our body. Then we have to take second grade, you can say watch category of medicine. If that is also not working, resistance has been created against those medicine also, then we have to create a reserve category antibiotics, which is done in case of multi-drug resistance. So watch and excess category drugs are not working. You have resistance against those category of antibiotic drugs. Now you take the even more higher dose of antibiotics. So antimicrobial resistance occurs when bacteria, virus, fungi, or parasites, they change over time and no longer respond to the medicine. Infections that once were easily treatable, they become difficult or impossible to treat. There is antimicrobial medicines, or these antibiotics, they kill most microbes. Some survive and become resistant to those medicines. They keep on multiplying, and whenever in future you give those medicines to them, these microbes which have survived in our body, they will not be treated by those medicines. And resistant microbes, they multiply and spread in the body. This creates antimicrobial resistance. That's why it is said you should not take medicines over the counter through, let's say, the medical shops on your own. You cannot directly go to the pharmacy and ask for, give me 1 dose of medicine. Whenever you should go to the doctor, when the doctor prescribes, let's say sometimes the doctor says, take 5 days of medicine. What we guys do? We take 2 days of medicine, we feel better and we stops the medicine. This is a foolish practice. It should never be done. Why? Whatever course the doctor suggests, it should be completed. Otherwise, if we'll just take few medicines and leave them, it will create antimicrobial resistance in the body. AMR will develop. Also, at the same time, without even going to a doctor, if we keeps on taking again and again more and more medicines on our own, it will also develop antimicrobial resistance. So we should always visit the doctor, and if he gives a prescription for 3 days or 5 days or 7 days, we should take that particular medicine. अपने आप से डॉक्टर नहीं बनना है कि हाँ 2 दिन में ठीक लग रहा है, now I'll not take the medicine. This should not be done. Clear? What are the causes or drivers of this AMR? As I told you, overuse and misuse of antibiotics. Misuse means not taking proper doses as prescribed by the doctors. Self-medication, over the counter from pharmacies. Use of antibiotics in livestock, aquaculture and poultry. The entire chain is one. From animals, it reaches to the humans. Poor infection prevention and control, poor sanitation and hygiene. Lack of new antibiotics and diagnostics. New discoveries are not happening at that pace. What can be the impact? Increased illness, diabetes, death, longer hospitalization stays, higher cost. Threatens achievement of sustainable development goals like the SDG 3 of good health. Global economic loss estimated at $1 trillion per year by 2050. It is an estimate of World Bank, and undermines advances in modern medicine like surgery, chemotherapy and transplants. Clear? So it can hamper all this. Now, what is One Health connection with regards to this AMR? AMR is one health issue affecting humans, animals and plants and environment. One Health talks about humans on one side, environment on second and animal on third. They say that all this is integrated. You cannot just take care of human health and leave others. If animals are developing AMR, if it is going to the environment, it will come to humans also. So you have to look holistically. All the three in One Health approach, they have to be taken care of. The global response regarding this AMR is that the WHO Global Action Plan for AMR 2015 was there. Food and Agriculture Organization action plan on AMR, so that in agriculture and livestock it is reduced. United Nations Environment Program, it supports AMR through environmental actions. United Nations General Assembly has a high-level meeting on AMR in 2016. So the issue is known from decades. A lot of work is being done on this issue. Now, India's response also, India's National Action Plan on AMR 2017. These are some of the steps taken by India. National Center for Disease Control, AMR division, a specific division is there in the Disease Control Center. You have AMR surveillance network across hospitals and labs. Rational use of antibiotics and antibiotic stewardship program. Jan Andolan on AMR awareness campaign run by the government and different medical organizations. Clear? So how can we combat this AMR? Use antibiotics only when prescribed by a qualified health professional, means a doctor. Complete the full course, as I have told you. Do not stop in between. Do not use leftover antibiotics or do not share them with someone else. Ask them to consult a doctor. Go to a government hospital if you do not have enough money to consult a private doctor. Practice good hygiene so that it is not spread by other means. Responsible use in animals and agriculture. Encourage research of new antibiotics, vaccine and diagnostic, so that new drugs are created which can, you can say, completely remove this AMR. And awareness in the community has to be done. Now, what are the other key facts which you have to keep in mind? AMR causes 1.27 million deaths globally. In India, they lead to 2.5 to 3 lakh of death annually every year in India. Clear? And that they are associated with AMR every year. This is WHO data. The drug-resistant infection can affect anyone at any age in any country. Without urgent action, by 2050, AMR could cause 10 million deaths annually. 10 million mean 1 crore deaths annually. Clear? And India will be at the forefront to bear its cost. Coming to the exam traps. What can the exam traps? AMR means the human body becomes resistant to antibiotics. No, AMR means not the human body. Basically, the microbes within the body, they become resistant to the antibiotics. The microbes, the antibiotics which you have to kill the microbes inside our body, the viruses, fungi, bacteria, they become resistant to this antibiotics. Antibiotics are effective against viral infection. Now, not antibiotics. Okay? Within your these different kind of, you have antibiotics, antivirals, antifungis. Antibiotics are used specifically for, not for viral, but for bacterial infection. Bacterial. For viruses, you have antiviral medicines. For fungi, you have antifungi medicines. Okay. Then AMR is caused only by overuse in humans. No, by misuse also it happens. By through animals also, through environment also it happens. A lot of ways are there. AMR concerns only bacteria. Now this is wrong. It also involves virus, fungi and parasites. Clear? Not only bacteria. Antibiotics are related to just bacteria, not antimicrobial resistance. So antibiotics, antifungi, antivirus or antiparasites, all these, they may cause AMR. AMR is only a healthcare issue. No, this is not only a healthcare issue. It is it is an environmental issue also. If these antibiotics go into the environment, they can hamper the entire environment. Clear? With this, we come to end to today's session. Make sure you write the answers in the mains answer writing program, and I'll again see you in the next session. Thank you.